So here is our three-step strategical process for the PTE describe image task. Strategy 1. Remember, you have 25 seconds to evaluate the image. You should strive to develop an understanding of the main features and trends of the image as you are doing that. So strategy 1 basically alludes to the fact that you have time to plan. And what should you do when you're planning? Try and think about how you can interpret the image to make sense so that you can appropriately describe it. You want to map out all the information you can find. Think about different ways that we can describe it in those 25 minutes. Let's have a look at strategy 1. So once again, let's have a look at our chart. Here is our chart. What kind of chart is it? Well, it's a line graph. And we can see we have one line here, which starts off quite flat and then it flicks up at the very end. What does our chart show? Well, on the x-axis, it talks about our week number. And on the y-axis, it talks about the number of iTunes purchased songs. That is all the information I'm going to give you, because now I want you to describe in more detail yourself about what is happening. In addition to, what are the smallest numbers? And finally, what are the biggest numbers? We're going to look at this as our brainstorming section. Think of this as your time. You've been given this task. You have now have time to plan and think about the information that the chart is telling us in order to formulate it into our response. How long do you have for this? You have 25 seconds. Time starts now. I'm going to talk over this video and hopefully keep you guys motivated as we go. So look at the information of the chart. What numbers do we have? What is the chart telling us? What does the y-axis tell us? What does the x-axis tell us? Do we see any trends that are happening in this chart? Furthermore, what are the smallest numbers and what are the biggest numbers? Because with these numbers, we will try and formulate our response. You got about 5 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Think of that as your brainstorming section. Okay, what information did you get from this chart? This is what I've gotten previously. All right, so I want you now to identify 2 or 3 main ideas that have been represented in this graph. What information can you take from your brainstorming section and how can you start to put this into ideas in your graph? You have 30 seconds to do this. So you've taken your ideas previously in this chart and now you want to think about, you've obviously described the numbers and the information. Now you want to think about 2 to 3 ideas that you can communicate now in your main response. So think about the y-axis information, think about the x-axis information, think about the trend in the graph. What's the numbers show us? Is there any information from the certain trends that you know that you can talk about using the previous vocabulary? Take it forward. 5 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So what do we get? Let's have a look. So this is some information that I got. Well, first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of information that we can take from this chart. There's going to be too much information that you can discuss accurately and in depth in the 40 seconds. But as we can see, during the first 60 weeks, the song purchases increased gradually. So if you look along your x-axis from 0 to 60, the line is quite flat at first. It starts off quite flat and then it starts to flick up. So we can say that chart trend is a gradual increase. It's not a large increase. It's also not very flat. We can see a small gradual increase. What other information did we get? There was a rise in week 60. Well, of course there was. So from week 60, the gradual rise is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We can start to see the trend changing. And then finally, we have a look at week 90. That trend from week 60 to week 90 keeps increasing, increasing, and increasing. And then at week 90, the trend changes. And we can say that sales shot up with a much larger and more rapid increase. Now, of course, there are many other things that we can talk about during this. You might want to talk about weeks 120 to weeks 150, for example. We can see that there's a massive increase, a huge, sharp increase, especially after week 135, approximately week 145. The line graph is almost vertical as it goes up. You also might want to talk about what the chart describes, for example. We can say the The line graph shows the week number in terms of iTunes purchased songs as well as the amount. That's a good way to frame the overall chart so that we can talk about exactly what the two axes are talking. Please write down your own responses to this task, and even take some of my responses and see if we can combine our ideas into your own response in terms of how we progress with this lesson. All right. So what we want to do now is we want to support each idea with details from the graph. I did a little bit of that there now. You've gotten your ideas in terms of the chart having a small gradual increase from week 0 to week 30, and then the increase gets larger from weeks 30 to 60, and then finally shoots up at week 90. That could be your three ideas in terms of the three trends and patterns you see inside this. Now you want to support each idea with details from the graph. You want to take your numbers and your statistics and include them now in your response. Have a look for 30 seconds. So if you like, you can obviously copy some of the ideas I took, but I would prefer that you took your own ideas, wrote them down, and see about how you can evaluate them in your own responses. After all, I won't be there for the test with you, so you'll need to write down your own response. And I think everyone will be capable to do this at the end of this video. All right, let's say another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So what ideas did we get in terms of this? Well, as I said, I've talked about the x-axis in terms of the information, but how can we incorporate that with the information from the y-axis? Here is one idea we can take. Between week 1 and week 60, only 100 million songs were purchased. If you take your eye across the line on the x-axis from week 1 to week 60, yes, we can see on the line itself there is number 100. That represents 100 million songs were purchased. That is one idea. Second idea, after week 60, the number of songs purchased rose to 200 million in 30 weeks. It almost doubled. So we take our line from week 60 over the next 30 weeks, so in 60 to 70. After week 60, the number of songs purchased rose to 200 million in 30 weeks. Yep. Yeah, all right. That's not 30 weeks. That's 60 weeks. Sorry. No, it is 30 weeks. My math is very bad. This is why I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher. Week 60 to week 90 is 30 weeks. The number rose from 100 all the way up to 200 million. And we can even add in more information in saying it almost doubled. Excellent. Second idea, we've taken information from the y-axis too. Finally, after week 90, there was a rapid rise to 100 million songs. 1,000 million songs in only 60 weeks. Here are our three ideas. So we actually took those three ideas and we talked about them slowly and methodically. This would take up a big chunk of our response. So that is a good reason for why we do this. Analyze the graph, take your three ideas, think about them, add your own statistical information, develop that into response, and you can see that we have something that's not only thorough, it's also logical and very academic in terms of its register.